Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And I know I already made a video about AT&T's quarterly earnings, but listening to the full earnings call, I was able to gather up some points that I didn't really discuss during that video. So I wanted to talk about them in today's video because I think they are very important and it could maybe change your opinion on their future strategy that's coming up. So right now, AT&T did kind of hint that they are participating in the CBRS auction. So right now it's kind of all over the place. We don't know who's getting what amount of spectrum at this time. It is likely to be confirmed that Verizon is going to spend the most because they desperately need that spectrum over AT&T, because AT&T already has a much better spectrum portfolio in terms of mid-band. So we can guesstimate that Verizon is going to spend the most in the CBRS auction, but it is good to see that AT&T is also participating in that auction. Next, on the call, AT&T didn't really bring up DirecTV. They are pushing software-based services. We've seen it. We've seen it on all of the quarterly earnings. They are losing a ton of customer on the traditional TV side. So for now, they're mainstreaming, they're streamlining the software-based services. It's not helping DirecTV at all because they're already losing customers. They're really not marketing the service anymore. I haven't seen a DirecTV commercial in forever, but for now, they are marketing and pushing the software-based services, which is good and bad. It'll help them kind of offset the losses that they're taking on the traditional TV side, but it'll never make up for the losses that they're taking on DirecTV. As I've stated, they're losing almost 1 million customers per quarter on that. So another thing that they did confirm kind of during that call, that these are the core priorities: fiber rollout, 5G, FirstNet with the coverage expansion for the first responders, and HBO Max. Those seem to be the company's core priorities moving forward through Q3, Q4, and into next year. So that's kind of where I was leaning towards this being their core priority. DirecTV really didn't fit into this. It's losing too much customers. HBO Max is really a great product, in my opinion. Lots of content on there, which is also part of the software-based services strategy that they have currently. AT&T TV not mentioned in terms of the core priorities, but I think it's also a priorities of theirs, especially if they potentially in the future get rid of DirecTV. They can still sell the content distribution through AT&T TV, which I think is a good product. The box that it comes with may not be too great. I think the app does run better on the Apple TV, but again, that's really opinion based. I've heard people say that they like the box, the Osprey box is what it's called, I believe. So that's really, like I said, an opinion piece. But again, these are their core priorities that they're going to be pushing for the rest of this year and next year. So another thing on number 4, new fiber ads, huge but limited due to the COVID-19. They feel they could have added more fiber customers, but they couldn't get into homes because of the pandemic. So they kind of had to take a back seat. Like I stated in the T-Mobile video, all the businesses are taking a hit. Projections aren't being met. So you can see it on the quarterly earnings. Lots of profits are down. So this didn't help AT&T, but they still added I think roughly around 250,000 customers on fiber, but it could have potentially been more, they're saying, but they weren't able to get into some of the customers' houses to put the fiber in there. So another thing which I find very important, which is another point as to why maybe they need to consider getting rid of DirecTV. AT&T TV, highest performing video product on customer satisfaction, double the level of its legacy TV services. DirecTV, it's part of the legacy TV services. AT&T TV, which is part of their software-based service, is its highest performing video product on its customer satisfaction. Another thing that's not really saying that DirecTV is all that bad, because AT&T TV is kind of a spin-off of the DirecTV product, but like I said, quarter after quarter, they're losing ton of customers. So the legacy side, it's not working for them. I think eventually the losses are going to be so staggering and they're going to add up. The board members, investors are going to have a talk about it, and they're going to sit down and see how they get rid of that product, because everything else seems to be doing better and DirecTV is on the downtrend. So next we have HBO Max, and I talked about this in another video, is increasing broadband ads and wireless ARPU. Some people have commented in the video that I made about HBO Max saying, well, how is AT&T making money off the product if everyone gets it for free? So AT&T stated that they are seeing an uptake in people switching their plans to a higher plan to get that product for free, which is helping. Like I said, they win either way. So broadband ads, that means the ones that are getting the AT&T fiber, they get HBO Max for free. What they mean by increasing broadband ads, so these customers likely prior did not have AT&T fiber, but AT&T is saying that they went ahead and switched services from, let's say, CenturyLink, Cox, Spectrum to AT&T fiber to get HBO Max. Is that really what happened? I don't know, but that's what AT&T is hinting at. And then the wireless ARPU is average price per customer. So more people are choosing the higher end options that have HBO Max included. So that right there is helping AT&T get more money. Like I said, the product itself, HBO Max, I believe is $14.99. So if you go from the starter, which is the lower end plan right now that does not include HBO Max, and you go to the higher plan that does include HBO Max, it's a pretty big increase in average price per customer. So AT&T is looking at it as a win. From a business standpoint, those two you always have to look as a win, and that's what T-Mobile has done for some time now. That's why they really didn't go with one line for Netflix. You had to add two lines to get Netflix. So that's what T-Mobile did, and it worked for them. People were adding two lines, and they said, hey, you can't get this with one line. You got to add a second line. So they added a second line, and that's how they got the uptake in the average price per customers, and they added more lines that way. And AT&T seems to be taking that same concept. So number 7, invested $1 billion in new 5G spectrum in the quarter. So that's likely the low band rollout and the millimeter wave that's being put on air in markets. So they're investing kind of a separate cost from the capital investment to fund for 5G. Like I said, Verizon, in a previous video, Verizon is really pushing 5G to the ultimate max. That's their main focus right now. Their core priority right now is like one thing, and that's millimeter wave 5G. They're pushing that across the board. They're doing their own fiber rollout, so they're laying thousands of miles of fiber per quarter. They're pushing the small cells, millimeter wave. They're being put on macro sites now. I've seen it. A buddy of mine sending pictures, said, look at this. CBRS at the top, small millimeter wave panel at the bottom. They're putting them on the macros. That's very interesting. We'll talk about that in another video, but that really is going against everything that all the other carriers were talking about, that Verizon wouldn't do that. It would cost them too much money, and they're doing just that. So again, $1 billion new 5G spectrum. So that means AT&T is implementing and putting the millimeter wave into the market. Next, number 8, very interesting, but I could see why. Elite plan is the most popular wireless plan. Now, I don't know. They didn't really state if that's something that they've maybe ran a poll across the industry and it's the most popular out of all carriers, or are they likely saying this is the most popular plan within AT&T? I think that's probably more the case, that this is the most popular plan within AT&T. Like I've stated on other videos, it does incorporate solid value. You get the network size that AT&T offers. You get decent pricing. You get HBO Max, 30 gigs, hotspot, 100 gigs before you're deprioritized. And it gives you a higher priority QCI over the extra and starter. So those are great points that AT&T made. So I think going forward, it is going to remain their most popular plan, and I do believe it is a great plan. So AT&T reports on number 9 that now 2 million customers of theirs are at least using 1 gig fiber speeds. And I say that because they are increasing here in the next couple of quarters. They are going to push that speed higher to 2.5 gigs, and that'll be a whole different speed tier and more money. But we'll talk about that in another video. But right now, I got to tell you guys, I've been with AT&T DSL, which is the product that they offered before they went fiber. I've had coaxial connections with Spectrum. I can tell you guys right now, nothing beats fiber optic. I don't care if it's a fast hotspot, if it's a wireless connection into your home. Nothing beats a direct connection to a fiber optic line that only you have access to within your home. I've dealt with Spectrum in the past. It was pretty bad. It was a hub that everybody ran off of. So during times of congestion or heavy TV usage, let's say there was a big football game on, you can see the quality degrading during the live event because so many people were connected to that hub. And that's exactly how Spectrum sold it and presented it to the neighborhood. With the AT&T fiber, that line is directly yours. You're not sharing the connection speed, the bandwidth with nobody. That is entirely your connection. So I think that's big. I think it is one of their most products that customers are satisfied with. I agree with that. I haven't had an outage with DSL. I had 2 outages already where I had to reset the modem. I had to call it in. So I'm looking forward to getting fiber here where I'm at, hopefully within the next few weeks or months. But I've had the fiber at the previous place, and nothing beats it, in my opinion. Nothing gets even close to that, and I'm sticking to that story from now on. So number 10, AT&T would have gained 190,000 net adds on wireless if it weren't for the disconnects. So if you guys watched that video, the quarterly earnings, AT&T had 338,000 disconnects during the quarter. If they wouldn't have had those disconnects, they would have gained close to 200,000 customers, which would have been very impressive. AT&T over the last couple of quarters, starting last year and the year before, they weren't doing too hot. They were losing customers even on wireless TV. They were losing across the board. So with this, the disconnects, like I said, the pandemic is throwing all businesses off. All of their projections are completely thrown out the window. So seeing this is a positive takeaway from that. The disconnects aren't necessarily helping, but once those go away, I do see AT&T on the right track on wireless. Like I said, their overall business is struggling in certain segments, but their wireless, I think they are close to the breakthrough, and you will see why here later on in a couple of other points that I'm going to make. So number 11, least performing stores will not reopen. I think we've already discussed that. They really pushed that on the call. They did state that the stores that were closed during the pandemic, they were reviewed. The least performing stores, they just won't reopen. I don't know if they're going to entirely let go of those entire store reps. They might distribute them throughout other stores that may have a shortage. But for now, as far as we know, what they stated on the call is those stores will not reopen. So again, another positive for AT&T with the software-based services, which is another negative towards DirecTV. AT&T TV, HBO Max, those products, you can self-install them. Very simple, very easy, which of course is going to reduce AT&T having to pay for field operations. So they need less technicians going to the actual house and setting it up. Everything else now can pretty much be set up, plug and play. It was very simple for me. I moved apartments. I plugged up the Wi-Fi and I plugged the AT&T TV into the box, and it was up and running. I had no technician come to the house whatsoever to set anything up. So be looking forward to AT&T cutting those jobs if they haven't already. There's just less need for them because of the fact that they're pushing and streamlining the software-based services. And again, that may make you question as to, where does that leave DirecTV in the future? And here's a big one, and this is to the point that I made earlier in terms of AT&T being on the right track on wireless, and they may finally have the breakthrough. And we are finally getting confirmation, and this was stated publicly on the earnings call. AT&T is going to modernize the billing and collection system. This is a big one. AT&T has a lot of legacy systems out there. This is making it not only a terrible experience for the customer, but also for the rep that you're speaking with, or the customer service rep you're speaking with on the call, because they don't know where to send you. They can't. So I've had that happen recently. People have told me about that several times, but I call AT&T Care. I get connected to that person. They're in the right department that I need to be in, but they can't, for whatever reason, access the specific part that I need taken care of. So now they have to transfer me. Then they transfer me to that section. That section is like, you're in the wrong department, because they don't know the right department to transfer you to. So they're transferring you to a random department, and then that department is transferring you. Before you know it, you've been transferred 6 times. Nobody knows where to take you to, and it's just because AT&T has so many legacy systems that they have to run so many departments, and nobody knows who can fix the issue that you need resolved. So this is probably very this is going to be a very underrated fix, but this, I think, is a very big one. If they could modernize the billing system to where you can just contact one customer rep and they can fix anything on your account, like T-Mobile does and Verizon does, that would be huge. That would be insanely huge for AT&T. It would bring down the times spent on the call when you call customer service, and it is going to leave the customer way more satisfied when calling AT&T customer service. A lot of people have told me verbally, email, that they sometimes they really don't want to call AT&T customer service because they know it's going to be a hassle trying to get the problem fixed that they're trying to fix. And then the last point that they made on the call: during the pandemic, a lot of studios weren't able to record the movies and the films and the shows that they're trying to make. So that's going to be a small setback, they're stating, for HBO Max. But the first time in August, we're going to have a large launch for HBO Max. They're going to push out 21 new series and movies, original content specifically for HBO Max. That is very big, in my opinion. This is how they view HBO Max internally at AT&T. They think the content that's on there now, which is very popular content, it's very recognizable. The DC, the Batmans, the Supermans. They think that's going to keep the customer that's already on the product, that's gotten it for free through their wireless or their fiber. They believe that content is going to keep that customer, but they believe the new original content that they put on the platform is what's going to gain them the new subscribers from other platforms or from other services that previously weren't interested in the HBO Max product. So those were 14 points that I was able to write down here that I wanted to share with you guys. So I just had that update. A lot to take in. It might have been a longer video, but I want to hear from you guys. Do you think this gives you hope that AT&T is on the right track now that the full integration is happening with T-Mobile? People thought that AT&T was going to start losing heavily, to T-Mobile, which could still be the case. But I think they'll likely be back because T-Mobile right now, as I've stated on the T-Mobile videos, they're dealing with some bigger network issues on a larger scale, which I saw that coming. I've seen it coming. I spoke with some tower techs, some engineers. They also said this is a much larger integration compared to Metro PCS, so those problems are just naturally going to happen. So I think right now, as T-Mobile, hypes up marketing, they have a really good marketing team. People may be interested in them. They may switch, but again, on a larger scale, they may also start shifting away from T-Mobile, and they may start going back to AT&T. I did state that I do see T-Mobile's churn increasing because once there's slow data speeds, once people experience issues on the network, they can't load anything, calls drop. That's when they start shopping for other networks and other deals out there, free phones, all that good stuff. So I do see that happening at least for the first year on the T-Mobile network. And I think AT&T, with what they're doing and the plans that they're bringing and the new refocus on customer service and modernizing the billing system, is going to allow them to capitalize on those customers. And I think they should be the next best choice, even before Verizon, because they incorporated more value. Verizon does have value with Disney Plus, although it's only for 12 months. They could potentially make that permanent, but that remains to be seen. But I just don't think that Apple Music is as great of a value compared to HBO Max. That's just my opinion. You may see it otherwise. But again, if you have been on the channel, you can go ahead and end the video. But if you are new to the channel, leave comments in the comment section down below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you are notified when I do upload the content. Make sure on YouTube you enable push notifications, although that doesn't help all the time. YouTube is dropping the ball on pushing out notifications. I see it on the daily. So make sure you also follow my Twitter. I do post the videos on there as well. So push notifications on both platforms so you have access to them the moment they drop. And this is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.